There are some things to want to mention here. You can see 3 uniforms, and that's a symbol of the 3 forces are available in this service. You can see clearly there are 3 uniforms, and that is symbolizing that the 3 forces are available for this function, giving our former head of state the military honors. The other thing you can see an occasional Land Rover. The occasional Land Rover is that Land Rover that normally the president used to arrive with in the state ceremonies. But the difference here is that occasional Land Rover just has somebody who looks like the general commander, but the head of state is not there. That's what, white seems to be so visible. You can ask yourself, why is white so visible? President Kibaki's presidential standard had white, and white was very pronounced. Of course, you can be able to tell, now you can see the occasional Land Rover there being shown. And of course, there's one that is carrying the family, which is just right. Of course, sometimes families can choose things which are different with the family. Like I could tell you, the state functions have got very standard way they are done. The only differences could be one, family choices that are offered, they can take or not. The other things that could also be possible, for example, if I just give an example, Margaret Thatcher was offered a state funeral, and the family chose not to take this military honor and scaled it down. The family is allowed. It's not written on stone, because actually the most people to be respected here is the family. Because in as much as me and Joe maybe the late wanted to be done. So that also comes very clearly and handy. And I told you can see that the family was also given the pride of place in State House. You could see the family of the late president being there, being close to the president. I could also see President Uhuru. How does he feel? Like Safin said before, exactly how do you feel when you announce 2 deaths and you are presiding over them? It's not just about being there in a historic moment. It's also how comes you announce two deaths. And you see this last one, he did it very fast. It was very quickly. It is my duty. He said as duty. I think he did it very fast and moved on. And I think this is something that you can feel. You could see on the face, you can see somebody who is in some very sober mood. He worked very closely with the president. He was the deputy prime minister. He was his finance minister, which means that most of the projects being executed on the strategy where he was working with the PS present here, they were more the guy executing from the budget side. You remember, if you don't sign any contract with the treasury, there's nothing you're doing, because that's where the money is. So that was his right arm that he used, and with heading your treasury, that actually is your right-hand person.
All right, Dr. Ogola, as we're still in State House there, and just to rope in Mr. Chue, former PS, I mean, place for 2 terms, 2002, and the next term was until 2013. You had the privilege to serve in his cabinet. What do you think, his government, yes, what do you think are some of the things that, looking at these pictures on the screens right now, State House, what is it that will go in history as the biggest role that Kibaki played for this country from where you sit?
Yes, from my standpoint, from what I could see while in government, number one was to revive the economy, which had been really battered, shall I say, and we were in the negative economic growth. Roads were in a shambles, as you recall. Institutions had collapsed when he came into office in 2002, and so on. So step one was to revive the economy, and this, as I mentioned earlier, had to be done, first of all, by making sure that the country is able to raise the revenue it requires. And then number two, the different economic sectors had to be brought to their feet again, like agriculture, like manufacturing, trade, and so on. And in agriculture especially, and someone mentioned while I was seated over there, that we had to revive the milk industry. We had to revive meaning the dairy industry, had to revive the tea industry, coffee industry, and so on. And even the production of cereals. And this had to be done such as by subsidizing the 202 elections. Mm-hmm. And then I called home, and a 6-year-old said to me on phone, Kibaki is president and education is free. Mm-hmm. You know, those are just the 2 points a 6-year-old man said to me. And so the idea of free primary education was so significant, because you couldn't have a population that is not educated. This is the worst society you can lead. It's one where people are not educated. And so this, to me, is landmark. The other thing that is landmark is the general economy, in the sense of capacity of the people to have the opportunity to invest and to realize returns from their investment. The challenge had been that it was not easy to access credit, and banks would require customers to have collateral and so on. This frustrated entrepreneurship and so on. And so what I feel was a major transformation was to improve the financial market so that interest rates came down, government borrowed less from the domestic market. This is what brought down in interest rates. Mm-hmm. And so entrepreneurs were able to access credit. In fact, at some point, banks began to hawk credit. Please come and take credit. When just a few years before, it was not easy to get credit from the bank. And so access to credit was one of the opportunities that enabled this country to realize social and economic transformation. Suddenly, there were businesses booming everywhere, thanks to credit. The other factor that I consider very, very critical, and I mentioned earlier, was a public service that is committed to serving citizens. And someone mentioned earlier the idea of public participation and so on. So now we had a public service that was sensitive to the needs and expectations of citizens. We now had things like customer satisfaction surveys being undertaken in all government institutions. Things like quality statement in terms of public service delivery. Things like how long